Clock shows it's 5:30. We call the meeting to order. This is the regular council meeting for April 20th, 2017. We'll first start off with our Pledge of Allegiance, if you would rise. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Roll call, Beth.
Mr. Draper.
Here.
Miss Etzel. Present. Mr. Spinks.
Here.
Mayor Aboasley. Mr. Brandt.
Here.
Mr. Nicholson.
Here.
Ms. Pazor.
Here.
As per our tradition, we'll pause here for a moment of silence. Thank you. We have a couple of proclamations tonight. I want to come down and do these. There's Earth Day and Arbor Day coming up in April, end of April. So I think there's two individuals here. If you would join me down here. Oh, there's three of you. They're gaining on you. So the first one is Earth Day. Why don't you introduce yourselves? Come up and introduce yourselves.
I am Carl Barnhart. I'm with Trees Forever. My name is Mike Simprich. I'm the arborist for the city of Marion.
Scott Hansen, chairman of the tree board.
All right. Thank you, guys. I appreciate you being here tonight. And the proclamation reads, whereas humankind is currently facing tremendous global challenges affecting every community, including large-scale migration, extreme inequality and poverty, degradation of ecosystems, mass extinction of species, and global climate changes. And whereas all the people of this earth, no matter their race, gender, income, sexual orientation, or national origin, have a right to a healthy environment. And whereas the youth of the world are a most valuable resource and present a source of endless creativity and potential. And whereas as it is necessary for the citizens of our global community to develop green jobs and to build an innovative and equitable green economy to combat the aforementioned global changes. And whereas expanding environmental education, climate literacy is vital to enhance awareness about the environment, inform decision-making, and protect future generations of reason. And whereas it is understood that susceptibility will only be achieved by meeting the needs of the present without compromising the needs of future generation. Whereas it is important that ever to act local to cooperate internationally and defend the environmental process that has been herefore granted. And whereas it is essential to expand and diversify the global environmental movement to achieve maximum progress, and whereas Earth Day is an annual reminder of this constant need for environmental activism, stewardship, commitments, and substantial efforts. Now, therefore, I, Joe Spinks, Mayor Pro Tem of the city of Marion, Iowa, do have the distinct honor to proclaim April 22nd, 2017 as Earth Day. And thank you very much for coming up and representing this. And while we're doing that, it's also coming up for Arbor Day. Get that centered? Hope this one doesn't have as big a word as the other one. So the proclamation for Arbor Day reads, whereas trees benefit urban settings where man-made active intensifies negative environmental and energy factors, and whereas trees benefit engineering, environmental, and climate factors in addition to aesthetics, and whereas Marion is well known for its tree-lined streets and parks and has been recognized as a Tree City USA community. That goes well for our Parks Department. And whereas Arbor Day activities have been carried out all over the United States since 1872 for proclaiming efforts to plant and maintain trees for their many benefits. Now, therefore, I, Joe Spinks, Mayor Pro Tem of the City of Marion, Iowa, do proclaim Friday, April 28th, 2017, as Arbor Day. And I ask that the citizens of Marion support all the efforts and care of the trees, woodland, support tree planting efforts, and encourage citizens to plant trees for present and future generations. Now, Mike, I understand there's a tree planting at Lau this Saturday? Next Friday, okay. So it'll be your chance to plant a tree there. So thank you, gentlemen, again for coming up and representing this on Arbor Day. Thank you. Oh, yeah. Oh, sure. Our official hold up. Right.
Smile, Scott.
I'll get these signed and back over to you there. Thank you. Thank you all very much for coming out tonight. Okay, we're down to the part of the meeting where we have citizens' presentations and comments. What we would like to do is have you come to the microphone, podium, and if you have something to talk to the council, the city about that's not on the agenda tonight. If it's on the agenda, wait till that item is talked about by council. But if it's not on the agenda, come and bring your petition forward. And I see I left the microphone turned the other way, so if you would, the first person up would thank you, Beth. I meant to do that. So I see Steve is ready to talk. State your name, address, and there's some cards here that we would like for you to fill out too. Over here, Devin's got them.
Yes. My name is Steve Sprague, S-P-R-A-G-U-E. I'm a resident of Marion living at 999 7th Street. I've resided at that location for 16 years and have lived in Marion for approximately 25 years. I was very pleased to note in the city's engineering plan that Michelle does such a beautiful job of distributing to those of us that are curious what's going on, that 7th Street between Central Avenue and I believe it is 9th Avenue was slated to be resurfaced. My home is right in the middle of that area. I'm delighted that the city is going to be resurfacing. That will be either the second or the third time since I've lived in this particular residence. However, as I thought about it, I thought it might be a good idea to at least bring up that our curbs are terrible. If you don't know 7th Street, we're one of the cut-through streets where people go from 7th Avenue north to Central and beyond. And our particular street was plotted sometime in the 1870s. First house was built in 1874. Thank God I don't live in that one. But whenever the street was widened and graded and graveled and then blacktopped and eventually probably, I'm guesstimating sometime between 1910 and 1920, curb and gutter was added. And that was new and groovy stuff, except the concrete that was used failed shortly after it was installed and has continued to fail. Whereas today, I've just included in the council packet a few pictures. I apologize for the quality here. But I would just point out this void. This is a 3-foot long stretch in the curb where there is no curb. Locations where there are horizontal cracks. I won't go through all of these. But what happens basically is the freeze and thaw cycle happens in the spring. Parts of the curb pop out. And so we either leave them for the street sweeper to push them out of the way, or we haul them to the dump. And this is an every year occurrence. So I would describe those curbs as functional, but aesthetically awful and not really good value for whatever was paid for them. For a bicyclist, there are areas along our street where there is no base. In the area where normally there would be something supporting the curb, it's not stone, it's dirt, it's cinders. I don't know what it is, but you can lose a car in the things, and that's, I'm sure, why the street has come up for repair. I would like to request that the city look at our curb and gutter situation. I think this stretch from 9th Avenue to Central Avenue is quite possibly one of the worst in town. I'm not a professional, so I can't say whether it would be good to be done before the resurfacing, after the resurfacing, or I don't know what. But I just wanted to bring in the pictures and share them with council and make you aware of what I see as a problem, because in our particular neighborhood, we have pretty strong pride of ownership. We have only one troubled property, and that's for sale, and somebody please come and buy it so that we don't have to have the police calling on them every weekend. But at any rate, others of us have invested a lot of money in our homes, and the curbs just don't serve any longer. So I would answer any brief questions if there are any. Otherwise, I have provided the clerk with a signed copy of my note and request that it be received and filed.
Dan, would you recap what we talked about? We talked about this Tuesday a little bit. Could you recap what that needs for the council to do to?
Yeah, currently the project, of course, is not in the CIP, the Capital Improvement Program. We are not provided funding for curb projects per se. Our HMA program is a separate annual program that we do. Citywide does not include curb work. When we reconstruct street, we use concrete because that provides for transference to the curbs as far as stress and so forth. Asphalt does not do that and does not rely on the curb section for that type of structure strength. So in this case, we're just overlaying to preserve the pavement itself and not addressing the curbs.
So for that to be done, that would take an action by council to bring something else forward to?
Yeah, we would need some kind of amendment to the CIP and an amendment to the budget and development of some kind of program that we could do as far as a CIP or through a maintenance program.
It would be similar to our sidewalk type program or something
It could be,
like
yes.
that.
Yep.
Yes, Steve.
I forgot to mention a pertinent fact that's in your notes, but we had so much fun with the curb and gutter last winter with practically no snow that somehow we managed to break one of the city plows. As somehow this crappy old curb won out over solid steel. I don't know how to explain that one, Ryan. I apologize for that, but it was a little drama for the winter. Okay. Thank you, everyone. Appreciate your time.
Do you mind if I ask a question? question, Your Honor.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm just curious what approximate cost would be for, like, say, a 10-foot section of curb. Any idea?
No, I don't have that number. If you're talking about removal and replacement, smaller portions of curb cost quite a bit more. We would want to do something in a larger scope to provide for better cost savings.
Usually with us, it's about $50 a lineal foot. That's excavation and replacement. That's usually what it runs. So that give you kind of an idea of what it costs.
Is that something your department could do, Ryan?
We could. We have to plan for it. We do have a smaller curb machine. I think we use it around your neighborhood, Joe.
Right.
But that's kind of like having a Model T on the Autobahn. So it would take us some time to do it, but we could look at other options if the council wanted to direct us to.
Okay. Do you have a question, Paul?
No, my question is a comment, Your Honor, and that is I went and had an opportunity, went and looked at the curb. Also went to 8th and a couple other streets there, and we did 8th without addressing places where there isn't any curb. But I think that we should give serious consideration to including curbing work as we do streets. If we have to do fewer streets next year, or the following year, or whatever, I'd prefer we do them right and give some consideration to getting bids at least that Dan could bring in and say, this is a curbing work, and this is a street bid. And that would be my opinion, Your Honor.
Lon, can we put that up to talk about in the planning for next year then, as far as planning for what we're going to do? Thanks.
I have a comment.
Yes.
I do have a comment. It seems that there is so much attention paid to the newer parts of Marion and the developers and all, but there are other parts of Marion also, and these are the original parts, and I think that they are being ignored, and that's a shame because there are a lot of historic places. I mean, Washington didn't sleep there or anything, and I think that they should be addressed also.
Thank you. Okay. Dwight, I believe you had something. Your favorite. Name and address, please.
Dwight Hogan, 1565 7th Avenue, Marion. Thank you for this opportunity. I have a comment regarding the intersection at 8th Street and 7th Avenue, coming out of the roundabout at Giuliano's. With the way his sign is placed, you cannot see eastbound traffic coming up that until they're almost on top of you, and by that time they're going really fast. So I'd like the council or the city to look into that and see what you can do, either raise the sign up so that you have a clean line of sight so there's no accidents.
Okay.
And I have one more thing.
Yeah, what you said, 8th Street and
8th Street, right there at Giuliano's,
yeah.
8th Street and 7th Avenue.
For the Giuliano sign.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
That sign, though, is part of the ordinance, right?
Yeah, the sign was, sorry, the signs associated with the roundabout construction that were removed, I think there was 3 or so that were removed. They were all put back in the same location where they were. We'll have to check on that one. I think it does. I think it didn't meet, or it does meet code currently. Just it's tight and it's just the angle. We'll look at it again. And we're working with them for a new sign, anyways. They've been.
Well, I'd appreciate it if you'd look at it before somebody gets hurt.
I'll swing up there.
Part of the problem is that when the roundabout went in, it was offset, and the people come around that and up that hill. I pull out of there a lot, and that is difficult to see the street because you can't, not as straight through as it used to be.
And your second item then?
My second item was several years ago, Mr. Joel Grandin came in and complained about the sand buildup on his parking in front of his business.
Okay,
And at that time, it was mentioned that the city knew there was a problem. To this date, there hasn't been any removal of that sand and that off of my parking area or at Gary Bolden's parking area between 17th Street and 18th Street. Now, Gary's is worse because in the springtime, when it melts, then it forms ice on that sidewalk, and it's hard to get around. Also, when you have a heavy rain like we had, it puddled up to about 6 inches or so of water on the sidewalk. You know, I realize we don't always get those kind of rains, but it is a problem, and I'd like the city to do something to alleviate those problems. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else would like to make a comment or something that is not on the agenda tonight? Yes, Charlie.
Good evening. Charles Knudsen, 2835 24th Avenue, Marion. Couple comments. One has to do, I put a request in for a speed at the roundabout down by the Burger King to be reduced. And I know it's been passed on to the TAC committee for review, and I don't see any action on it tonight on the agenda. I observed the last couple of days that one of the major directional signs on the south side of that got hammered by some vehicle, and we understand it right now. It's 35 miles an hour. If you can drive 35 miles an hour safely around that roundabout, you legally can do that, because the 15-mile-an-hour sign is only a recommended. That's not necessarily an enforceable line unless you have an accident. We're continuing to allow basically people to head into that roundabout from both directions at 35 miles an hour. And I wish the city would step up and do what they did down here. They lowered it to 20 mile an hour on both sides of that roundabout. It makes sense. Okay, the second thing is the proposed new road that you're going to authorize a payment for $25,000 towards the study, the road from Alburnett over to 7th Avenue. This was an idea that was developed in the city 20, 25 years ago, maybe longer. It's been on the books for a long time with no actions being taken on it, to my knowledge. But now it's kind of surfaced, and we're starting to throw money at this proposed project. And I'm looking at this road coming across, and I know we got traffic problems in town, but we're going to have a heavy traffic problem coming across Boyson Road. We're also going to be taking this road into a nice, newly developed residential neighborhood. It's kind of a quiet neighborhood right now. Well, when you start driving this amount of traffic through it, it's going to affect that new neighborhood. We're going to have a multi-million-dollar bridge that we're going to have to build. I hate to think what that might cost. Then we're going to have to come across eventually 8th Avenue. That's going to be an absolute disaster. And eventually we're going to dump all this stuff on down to by the viaduct, train viaduct on 7th Avenue. Yeah, it might have, 25 years ago, it might have been nice if that road had been built and the city had developed businesses and people around that. It didn't happen. And now we're kind of at a disaster stage, and I think we really need to seriously look at whether we should be throwing any money at this project at all. And the money even towards the study of this proposed road need to be closely monitored, and don't throw a whole bunch of money at that road that is just going to have countless other obstacles. Think about Boyson Road, think about the cost of a bridge, going through a neighborhood, across 8th Avenue, and into 7th Avenue. Thank you.
Yeah, and I talked to him before the meeting. I mean, the whole point of this was to get or ease the traffic in the uptown area. That was the original thought of this, bringing this road out to that point.
That was the original thought, and that's still upheld by the traffic study that was performed as part of the concept study.
Right. So right now on 7th Avenue, we have 25,000 cars a year.
About 20,000 a day.
About 20,000 a day. So, you know.
But you're going to create a lot of other issues. 8th Avenue, like I said, Boyson Avenue, a bridge. Yeah, it may help on one side, but on the other sides and the other issues that you're going to create, take a real close look at it before you start throwing much money at that. And the gentleman here was just spoke about the other streets in town. We got a lot of streets in this town that do need work, and maybe that's where our money needs to be going. Take care of the town that we have. You know, we got the main thoroughfare and stuff like that, but let's take care of the town we have as well. Thank you.
Thanks. Anyone else would like to address on issues that are not on the agenda? I failed to mention when we did the Pledge of Allegiance, the Scout that are here, would you like to say who you guys are? Come up to the podium and introduce who your scouts are.
Some bashful boys.
I should have let them start the Pledge of Allegiance. I should have done that, but what?
My name is Dominic Galoro, and I'm an Assistant Scoutmaster with Troop 360, and we're doing a Citizenship with the Community Merit Badge requirement tonight.
Okay, will you want to introduce yourselves, each one?
My name is Connor Alt, currently first class, very close to my next rank.
Okay, glad to have you here tonight.
My name is Shoria Singh. I am a second class, also close to my next rank.
Thank you for coming out.
I am Ryan Weiss, and I'm Scout. Tenderfoot. I'm Zach Galoro. I'm a Tenderfoot.
Thank you. Thank you very much for coming out here. All right. So we're down to the consent calendar. Is there anything council would like to pull off of the consent for additional discussion before we read the
3B.
3B?
Your Honor, if we could remove 3B, I'm going to have to abstain from that item. Management has requested that we abstain and redo that particular, withdraw it, and then we redo it, so.
So you want to remove it totally from?
No, I want to delay it. We'll have it voted on separately.
Oh, okay. All right. Anything else? Councilman Brandt.
Okay, then I make a motion to approve the consent calendar as presented. Items 1, 2, 3A, 3C, and then 4 all the way through 32, which would include resolutions number 25937 through 25958.
Second.
A second, Mary Lou. Discussion. Nothing heard?
Nope.
What's that? Nope. All those in favor of the consent calendar as presented, signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed? Motion carries. Would you do 3B then?
Make a motion to approve the following liquor license applications. B would be renewal application for a Class B beer permit with additional privileges for outdoor service and Sunday sales for Another Road LLC, doing business as Another Road Brewing, 631 9th Street, expiration 5/7 of 17, no violations in the previous 5 years.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Discussion on that. Nothing? Okay. All those in favor of the consent calendar motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And opposed? And one abstention.
One abstention. Thank you.
Your Honor, I'd like to,
I was going to take that one.
all right.
Your Honor, I move to approve Resolution 25959, approving a transfer of ownership of K9 police dog Bruno to Officer Jeff Gilson.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Oh, I was going to say, where'd the chief go? It's like, the floor is yours, chief.
Uh-oh.
Oh, no.
Okay, I'm Joe McHale. I'm the Chief of Police for Marion, Iowa. This is Officer Jeff Gilson. Jeff began his employment with the Marion Police Department in 2006. His K9 partner, Bruno, joined the department in 2010. Bruno specialized in narcotics enforcement and patrol enforcement. Over the years, they, as a partner and handler, they were involved in many high-profile cases and have been an asset to our agency and our community. Recently, Jeff was given the opportunity to transfer from patrol to investigations to become a detective on our department, where he will be learning new skills and challenged with a different type of police work. Of note, Detective Gilson was responsible in the last 2 days for pending charges and all the criminal damage that's occurred in Uptown Marion over the past 3 weeks. So kudos to you on that, Jeff. Thank you. Due to the change in duties and Bruno's physical health, it's time for him to retire. We are certainly grateful for all the time that Jeff has spent with him and his family caring for Bruno, and we are so glad that you get to keep him in your family for the rest of his life, and we just want to tell you thank you and to your family. I'm sorry they had to leave, but thank you for all they do, and thank you for all you did for the citizens of Marion, and thanks to this little guy. He actually got you a little present here. That's from your dog to you. So congratulations, and thank you, Bruno, for all you did. We're gonna ask you to come up and visit us every now and then, and apparently you never get loved on, right?
Yeah. Thank y'all. So, Resolution 25959 had been moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, motion carries. Bruno is his.
Your Honor?
Yes.
I would like to recommend approval of resolution number 25960, accepting the determination by the Lynn County Condemnation Commission and approving partial payment number 1 to Phyllis M. Roush, trustee of the William J. Roush Family Trust for the Armar Drive Extension Project in the amount of $413,590.
Second. Moved and seconded. Discussion.
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes, ma'am.
We just brought up the idea of streets and curbs and all this, and this is an unknown entity as far as when this will be realized and compensated for. And I think that it would probably be to the city's advantage to not go through with this plan, but to vote it down, and perhaps then the developers who are interested in this can make a special deal with the Roush family and let them pay for it rather than the city. Once again, it's put out money for the new stuff and forget the old stuff, and that's not right.
Other discussions?
I wouldn't even know if we have that option at this point.
We have a time limit. I think it's 30 days to be able to act on the price that's established in the condemnation. And then there are, as part of the condemnation, there are easements for construction that have a time frame associated with them. They're not permanent. We were talking about this internally today, and at a minimum we would need to get in there and do the grading to have the road installed so that we could make sure that any work in those temporary easements was completed so that the project could keep moving along. You know, this one was a project that's been on the books since 2009. I think it was added as a potential project. The main reason we've been looking at this one for so long is not really economic development related, but knowing that Cedar Rapids is going to come along and make massive changes to Collins Road in the area past Lindale Mall. They did end up deferring that project, and they're going through some redesign right now, but we were worried about what's going to happen to the traffic patterns at that intersection of Collins and First when that project gets underway, and that we needed to have access down to Highway 100 for our emergency services departments to be able to continue to serve the south area of the city while that project is under construction and will be very congested. I think that project is expected to take a number of years, so that was the driving factor behind it. There's not really a lot of property in this area along Armour Drive that can be developed anymore, other than the ones immediately adjacent to where we'd be putting the road in.
Any other comments then?
It'd be a very difficult vote to vote in favor of this, but you gotta know when to surrender.
So if a vote doesn't happen, or this doesn't get voted in, what, the decision made by the Lynn County Condemnation Commission, if this, how long does that stay in place? So say nothing happens, then 5 years down the road, renegotiations start up again, does that still hold?
No, you have to go through the condemnation process again.
Again, okay.
And I just would point out on this one that condemnation was a last resort for us. We attempted to do voluntary negotiations for 6 years. They were also approached by several different developers, several different companies that were interested in doing something on the site, and no one could come to any resolution on it with the trust. Condemnation was a last resort, and it's taken us 1.5 years to get to this point.
I might mention the commission date was the 29th of last month, so we're getting close to the end of the 30 days.
Okay. Any other discussions on this item? All those in favor of Resolution 25960 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
No.
One no vote. Mr. Draper.
Yes, Your Honor, I have ordinance number 1704, amending the Marion Code of Ordinances to rezone property located east of Highway 13 and north of Highway 151, address being 5801 Hennessy Parkway in Marion, Lynn County, Iowa, from C3 General Commercial to PDS Planned Development Special, the White Rock LLC, and this is the final consideration.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Discussion. Dave, would you give a small comment on what this property will be?
Yes, this is a mixed commercial development. It'll contain a variety of retail, office uses, as well as some potential multifamily in one portion of it. I believe it's about a $40 million project roughly right now. It will include a hotel as part of that. If everything gets approved tonight, they're going to likely try to begin project yet this summer, doing the west half of the property on the old driving range there. That will include the hotel.
Okay, thank you. Council discussion on this? Okay, this is ordinance 1704. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Councilperson Edsel.
Yes, Your Honor. I move to approve resolution number 25961, approving the Highway 13 and 151 addition preliminary plat located at 5801 Hennessy Parkway, Water Rock LLC.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Discussion on this resolution. Hearing none. Resolution 25961. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Councilman Brandt.
Your Honor, I make a motion to approve ordinance number 1707, amending Chapter 3, Boundaries, Section 3.02.14 of the Marion Code of Ordinances related to precinct boundary descriptions pertaining to precinct MR14. Second consideration.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Dave, would you a short description on this?
Yes, every time we annex a new property from the county, we have to assign it to a precinct. This boundary amendment will include this recently annexed property. I believe this was over by Albernette Road and Robbins Road. So this is just assigning that new annexed property to a precinct in the city.
Well, this is just south of the retirement home?
It's the retirement home in West.
Yes.
Up to the roundabout.
Okay, thank you. Any other discussion on this? Ordinance 1707. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Your Honor, I would recommend we suspend the rules and go to the third reading on this.
Well, before you say that, was there any nays? Okay, now.
Your Honor, I would move we suspend the rules and go to the third vote on this item.
Okay.
take my job over.
You gotta be faster than that.
Snuck in on you.
Well,
You got a bad hip, you can't walk fast.
oh. Your Honor, I would just like to inform the council that it has to be a unanimous vote, because if there is one no, then it will have to go for the third consideration at a later
Right,
meeting.
because we're down one person. Yes, okay.
Was there a second on that?
Second.
Thank you.
Thank you. Somebody's jumping ahead. All right. The motion is to suspend the rules and move to final consideration of ordinance 1707. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Councilman Nicholson.
Your Honor, I'd like to recommend approval of resolution number 25962, approving Sunny Ridge Villas, first edition, final plat and memorandum of agreement for property located at 2255, 2257, 2275, and 2277 Bison Court, Marion, Iowa, with Chad Pelly.
Second?
Moved and seconded. Discussion on this? Oh, before that, Dave, would you give us a small talk on what this is?
Yes, this is a replat of the Prairie Ridge 7th edition that was approved late last year by Mooney Angle Development. This was one large lot originally on Bison Court with the intent to develop the 4 12-plex units that are similar to what it's on Boyson, the 3-story ones in Cedar Rapids. The developer's splitting this lot into 4 to address some ADA accessibility issues of that many units on one lot, so he has to put each building on its own lot. It doesn't change the development plan at all. It's just creating those lots for the ADA requirements.
Okay, thank you. Now, any questions from council on this? Okay, this is resolution 25962. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Open a public hearing regarding a request to vacate an alley described as 120 feet of the 10-foot wide east-west alley adjacent to the south property line of the 1060 29th Street, Marion, Iowa, also known as lots 3 and 4 of Block 6, Richmond, 2nd Edition, Marion, Lynn County, Iowa, Larry and John Nessett request. So this is a public hearing. Is there anyone in the audience that wants to speak for this request? Anyone in the audience that wants to speak against it or more information on this, come forward. Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing.
Your Honor, I move to approve resolution 25963, approving the vacation of an alley described as 120 feet by 10 feet wide east-west alley adjacent to the south property line of 1060 29th Street, Marion, Iowa, also known as lots 3 and 4 of Block 6, Richmond, 2nd Edition, Marion, Lynn County, Iowa, from Larry and Joe Nessett.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Discussion.
How much is this going to net the city?
The alley is only being vacated at this time to turn it from alley to public property. The Nessetts will be, I haven't figured that out yet. They're not asking to purchase it at this time, so it has not been determined yet. They'll be coming back probably in the next month once I notify the adjacent property owner of the potential sale as well to see if they're interested, and then I'll have that actual number. It'll probably be in the neighborhood of $500 to $600. I'm gonna guess based on the neighborhood.
Thank you.
Yep.
Any other discussions on this? Okay, this is resolution 25963. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Another public hearing. This is a public hearing regarding the sale of the vacated alley located at the south property line of 703 3rd Avenue, Marion, Lynn County, Iowa, Chester R. and Diane Trimberly What's that?
701.
701, sorry. Is there anyone in the audience to speak for this vacation of the alley? Anyone to speak against or more information on this, come forward. Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. Councilman Draper.
Yes, Your Honor, I move approval of Resolution 25964, approving the sale of the vacated alley located at the south property line of 701 3rd Avenue, Marion, Lynn County, Iowa, Chester and Diana Timberley.
Second?
It's moved and seconded. Discussion on this.
I don't suppose you have a cost on this either.
I do have one on this one since it's for sale. It is $551.28.
Thank you.
About 92 cents a square foot.
Other discussions on this?
And no other, well, let's see, no other property. The adjoining property didn't want to purchase.
The adjoining property owner was notified, never heard from him.
Okay, this is Resolution 25964. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Councilman Eds?
Yes, Your Honor, I move to approve Resolution Number 25965, approving a purchase agreement for property located at 1483 6th Avenue and 1493 6th Avenue in the amount of $161,100. Becky S. Meyer Gast.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Dave, do you want to speak to this one quickly?
Yes, as I say, this is for the Meyer Veterinary Clinic located at 6th Avenue and 15th Street. This is the location of the future roundabout. At that location, this is one of the properties in that block or in the adjacent blocks that had to be purchased to make way for that road improvement. The $161,100 is the agreed upon purchase price for the site.
Okay. We're talking just down the street here on 6th Avenue, about 3 or 4 blocks maybe. Any other discussion on this?
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes.
I fully intend to vote no on this. I realize it's a done deal, but this is the only way I can object to the fact of putting a roundabout in a location that is the major route to 4 schools.
Okay. Any other discussion? This is Resolution 25965. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
No.
And 1 no. Mr. Brandt.
Your Honor, I make a motion to approve Resolution Number 25966, approving relocation assistance in the amount of $67,822.91 to Meyer Vet Clinic associated with the Central Corridor project.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Discussion. Not seeing anything.
Same reason.
What's that?
Same reason.
Same reason. This is Resolution 25966. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
No.
There's 1 no. Open another public hearing regarding the proposed amendment to the Central Corridor Urban Renewal Area. Would you give us a short brief on this, please?
Yeah, essentially, as the council will remember, a couple of years ago, we took 2 urban renewal areas and combined them into one. And in the wake of a Supreme Court decision, our TIF attorneys advised us to separate them back out. So this plan amendment does a couple of different things. One is that it separates the district, redefines the boundaries of it that we want for the Central Corridor District moving forward, but then also includes the authorization for a couple of projects in the uptown that we've been working on for several months. It also includes the prior amendments, which would be all of the prior projects that were done out of the Central Corridor Plan, and in a couple of cases where we did projects out of the combined district, we're assigning them to their new home district. So in most ways it's a cleanup, but also has authorization in there for a couple of coming projects.
Okay, thank you. Is anyone in the audience want to speak for this proposed amendment? Please come forward. Anyone want to speak against it or more information on this, please come forward. Hear none. I'll close the public hearing. We'll go to Mr. Nicholson.
Your Honor, I'd like to recommend approval of resolution number 25967 to declare necessity and establish an urban renewal area pursuant to section 403.4 of the Code of Iowa and approve urban renewal plan amendment for the April 2017 addition to the Central Corridor Urban Renewal Area.
Second?
Moved and seconded. Discussion.
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes, ma'am.
Since we just got this information tonight, and it is rather a lengthy piece of work to read, I would move to table this to a later time because even though maybe this had been passed before, a lot of city business has taken place since, and I think that we need to re-examine.
Well, I would ask, is this different from what was put in the package?
The addition to it has been we added in all of the prior urban renewal plan amendments that had been approved by the City Council. So you have seen this document before.
But how long ago?
Yeah.
I mean, and I really think that it needs to be looked at because I just don't think we can rubber stamp approvals on things that we're really not sure about.
What's other council feeling on delaying it?
Is there a problem delaying it? In emergency?
Trying to think schedule-wise if it would cause a problem with any of the agreements we've got coming up. We have a schedule mapped out for doing moving forward in the approval of the development agreements in the Central Corridor, Barker and the Ramses ones that would call for us to be setting public hearings at the next meeting and then moving through the approval process. The one that it might cause problems with would be the Barker financial one. I can't remember if they have any financing contingencies or anything they have to have cleared with that.
We would have an opportunity to vote on as they come to the council anyway.
You actually already set the date for the public hearing for both Barker and Ramses during the consent agenda portion. So we typically run them in concurrent meetings, but the approval of the urban renewal plan amendment and the two development agreements could happen at the same meeting. So if you did want to push this back, you could just do this before considering the development agreements for the two projects.
But I would just point out that the approving the resolution of necessity and the ordinance to establish the district don't commit the city to do anything. It's not until you actually approve the development agreements that you're making any kind of an agreement with anybody for any type of financial compensation or incentive. This is just establishing the city's legal authority to enter into those types of agreements.
That's what I was thinking, that it was the change of legality is what you were striving
And this,
for.
I mean, the Planning and Zoning Commission did see the plan and they recommended approval to the City Council.
Okay.
Well, my objection is I think that council has lost control over an awfully lot of this stuff that's being passed because, like I said, to get this piece of material and to know what's in it, not possible. And I think it just needs to be put off for another meeting until I have an opportunity to look at this and be reminded perhaps of what is included.
I'm inclined to say that, you know, what we had in our package is what has changed. That's the new portion of it. So I would incline to keep going with it then.
Yeah.
Unless council wants to do that. If there's any interest in doing that.
I guess I just want to clarify this. So it was, nothing's changed in the actual, what am I trying to ask? Nothing's actually changed with it. Is you just added in, because I see there's resolutions from 2010 in here, and you just added that stuff in.
Yeah, what we did do was we added some detail regarding the amendments that had been approved in the past, and then added in the ones that the council has actually acted on with prior consideration. And then we were able to further refine and finish up the legal description of the map that we showed you on Tuesday, the area that's going to be covered by the amendment.
Most of this packet is old resolutions and ordinances.
I guess I say that we go on then, if I'm not seeing any interest in delaying it then.
I don't have any concerns of moving forward with it. I know we saw the map, what it was, what it's going to be, and when I'm looking through here, I see it's just a lot of the things that has already gone before the city council approved, and it's just been incorporated in this document. So I don't have personally, I don't have any issues moving forward.
Okay, well, given the changes that take place constantly, like the original Central Corridor plan had one roundabout, an esplanade, and all kinds of stuff, and that's all changed, and who knows what's changed in this? I'm sorry, I want to look at this.
Well, I'm going to go ahead and move forward then. Resolution 25967. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed?
No.
There's one no. And it's back to you,
Okay.
Councilman Zord.
Your Honor, I move to approve the initial consideration of Ordinance 17-09, providing for the division of taxes levied on taxable property in the April 2017 addition to the Central Corridor Urban Renewal Area pursuant to Section 403.19 of the Code of Iowa.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Council discussion on this ordinance? Okay, all those in favor of ordinance 1709 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Councilman Draper.
Your Honor, I move for approval of Resolution 25968, approving the Memorandum of Understanding regarding the TIF for GLD Commercial Hotel.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Juan, do you want to go through, all these are similar, do you want to give a short presentation on what this is?
Can I ask one question,
Yeah,
though?
sure. Yes.
These that were given to us also are just exact same thing in here.
There have been a few changes made to those, but nothing I would consider to be real substantive. For example, in the case of the next one that's on the agenda, there were some adjustments that were made to the phasing schedule to reflect some of the developers' updated information. But the terms and everything that's outlined in the documents have not been substantively altered. And these are all items that we've added into the process for the approval of a tax increment financing agreement. They are not required by code, but one of the things that is a real challenge with working through the TIF process is just how long it takes from start to finish because of the state mandated process and the built-in timelines that you have to work through. And we've run into a lot of situations where being able to get through the process or not being able to get through it in a timely manner has presented challenges for people with having to move back closings and pay to get an extension on a sale agreement and things like that. So we wanted to be able to provide a vehicle for the council to see the terms that we were intending to put into a development agreement that could be agreed to provided to the developer or the investor, but we still have to go through the TIF process for the approval of the formal documentation. So it's intended to be something that they can take to the bank or that they can take to their sellers, know that they have a measure of security, that this is what the city intends to do, but that we still have to move through the statutory process for final approval.
Thank you. Any other questions then on Resolution 25968? Okay. All those in favor of Resolution 25968 signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Ms. Edsel.
Yes, Your Honor, I move to approve resolution number 25969, approving a memorandum of understanding regarding tax increment financing incentives with GLD Commercial.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Discussion on this item.
So what was changed in this one then?
This one has changes to the phasing schedule for when they expect the completion of the buildings. Essentially, I think the initial draft called for 3 buildings to be done earlier, and it was something that they just changed the phasing on. But it didn't affect the financial terms.
I believe, Dave, you said that they were going to work on the east side and the center portions first.
Oh, are we talking about GLD right now?
Yes.
No, that was on the 13 and 151 development.
Okay.
It'll be
Sorry,
west side
wrong one.
first.
Yeah. So they will phase this project here.
Yeah, it's expected with this one. I mean, this is the commercial phase for the property surrounding the hotel. It's expected that they'll have 3 buildings, but as the council knows, there's another parcel in play that may change that phasing. So they wanted to be a little bit more vague with it, knowing that they are potentially going to be expanding the scope of the project. And if they acquire that parcel, that's probably the one that will go first.
Okay. Any other questions then on this?
Hold on a sec.
Okay. Yep. All right. All those in favor of Resolution 25969 signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed? Motion carries. Now, Mr. Brandt, now that you've lost your place.
Yeah. I make a motion to approve resolution number 25970, approving a memorandum of understanding regarding tax increment financing TIF incentives for 13 and 151 LLC.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Discussion on this item.
This one also did have a phasing change. There was one building that was contemplated in the first year that got slid back to the second year.
Yeah.
And then they kind of cascaded down through a couple of years in the agreement, but the overall number of buildings is still the same and the financial parameters are all the same.
Everyone gone through it enough? Good? Okay. Move to approve resolution number 25970. Signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries.
I'd like to recommend approval of resolution number 25971 of support for the Iowa DOT airport funding application.
Second.
It's moved and seconded. Summary on this line?
Yeah, what we're looking at doing here is the council knows we've been engaging in continuing feedback with the DOT on our airport layout plan and what's anticipated for initial projects for the Marion Airport. And we were initially looking at applying for some funding to do some design on the east-west runway to mate up with the north-south runway, and then looking at land acquisition. Based on feedback from the DOT, their advice is to for us to put in the highest scoring application and the one with the best chance of success, they'd like to see us pursue a project that can be all self-contained within one project. Whereas when you start doing land acquisition and getting a runway, that has to be parceled out over a period of years. So in working with our contract engineering firm, what they're recommending is that we go in for an expansion and rehabilitation of the runway on its existing footprint. So they'd go in, do some regrading, smooth out some undulations on the existing runway, and in essence do a lot of what similar projects to what we do with our asphalt overlays, where you do a mill and overlay on the existing runway and then add another 37 feet to it so that you end up with a 60-foot wide asphalt runway, and the existing runway has a rehabbed surface. The benefit to that is that you get one complete project that can be completed all in one funding cycle, and you remove some of the obstacles that you have to the business case for the airport out there right now. It is a modification and a bit of a departure from what's contemplated in the airport layout plan, which would have called for a complete reconstruction of this runway using concrete starting in 2019. But that's also a multi-million-dollar project to do it that way. So it would have a bit of an impact on where we go with that, but based on feedback from the DOT, it's probably the strongest application that we can put in for funding in this cycle, and it makes some immediate improvements to the airport that would help make sure that we've got viable business out there.
So that would change the timeline of what was presented at the open houses significantly?
Not significantly. What it does do is it changes the sequence of events, because if you think through what the original airport layout plan proposed, in 2019 they were proposing to do the runway reconstruction and widening, but it was about a $3.1 million project at that point. We would not want to go in and do a project like this and then come in and tear out that kind of asphalt or something 2 or 3 years later. So this would be intended to remain. The original ALP had called for acquisition for land for a taxiway and then building a parallel taxiway that would have paralleled the north-south runway to be used as a temporary runway while this one was under reconstruction. DOT would rather see us come in for improvements to this existing runway as something that could be accomplished as one project. So this is based on feedback from their staff and trying to stay within what they feel would be successful applications.
So this asphalt runway, what could land on that then once it's completed? What type of aircraft?
You wouldn't be able to have the ones that need the additional carrying capacity that the concrete runway would add. So I think you'd end up with a similar type of aircraft to what we have out there right now, but we're limited in the ones that can land because of the wingspan and the width of the existing paving. It's only I think 23 feet wide for the existing paving cross section, so a lot of planes won't land there because their landing gear is too wide for that.
So it would expand the capability of the Marion Airport then?
Yeah, it gets us more into compliance with, if I'm remembering my terminology correctly, what's called a basic service airport. We're technically in there right now because they allow us to consider us to have a wider runway, but it's turf. This would get us into the level of basic service, but with a paved runway. And it would include the installation and upgrade of lighting on the airport as well.
Any other discussion for council then on?
Was this ever considered before?
For this project?
Yeah, for that.
It was something that's been discussed as a potential alternative. I mean, if we had unlimited resources and unlimited time, it would be preferable to go in and do the reconstruction and paving. But again, DOT is the one who has the money, and you have to kind of follow their guidance when it comes to what they would like to, what they think will be a successful funding application.
How much can you expect from IDOT?
The application from DOT would be for $424,000.
And what is the city's obligation then?
The local match would be 74,933 based on the current estimates.
I'm sorry, what was the amount?
74,933.
And that's the total cost of the project.
That's the grading, rehabbing the existing paving, adding the width, doing the edge light installation. They've got some allowances for erosion control and seeding and surveying built in as well.
Now, have you approached the adjacent property owners to see if they are amenable to selling their property for airport expansion?
This does not require anyone to sell property for this part of the project.
We're just making it wider.
It's not linked to.
No, but I mean, down the road, because like, for example, the 6th Avenue project from roundabout to roundabout, I understand is in limbo because somebody didn't check to make sure that the property owners that whose land that 6th Avenue portion would encroach on are not in favor of selling their property to the city. So, you know, it's like, surprise, you know, we're going to do this whether you like it or not, and it's a crummy way to do business, that's all.
Well, I think this council, though, has supported the airport, and this isn't really expansion, it's improvement, the way I look at it. And I think if we can get some IDOT money, which we were told we couldn't by an attorney who stood at that table, I think it's worth going for. If we don't, we haven't done anything but support the fact that we're going to try to get the money from them. So it seems logical to me to move ahead on it.
No, I just want some, you know, things in line before, you know,
I understand.
ABC rather than ADX or whatever, you know.
But if we had a motion to spend what the total is without this IDOT grant, it would be a lot more painful than applying for this to see if we can get it, you know.
Well, I think there have been a lot of items on here that are a lot more painful, but that's beside the point.
Okay, any other discussion then on Resolution 25971? Okay, Resolution 25971, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries.
Your Honor, I
Mr.
move to
Zurich.
remove Table Resolution 25,903, approving the Uptown Parking Purchase Agreement and Repurchase Agreement.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Lon, would you give us, since this was a while ago, we talked about this.
Yeah, there's actually two agreements to this. One is a fairly standard real estate purchase agreement that would buy the property that would be owned by Marion Holdings. This would be where the current law office is on 12th Street across to the west of the Methodist Church and to the south of the Presbyterian Church. And the city would purchase the property and they would escrow funding to demolish the buildings and deliver to us a clear site. We would construct a parking lot on that so that we've got additional parking in the uptown, basically getting us prepped for when we have to come through and do the reconstruction of 7th Avenue because we'll lose all that parking on the north side. The other key to it, though, is the repurchase agreement is that they've agreed to buy it back from us. We have a period anytime within 10 years that we can notify them of our intent to put the property back into use as something other than a parking lot, and they will buy it back from us. There is a $10,000 difference between our purchase price and what they have agreed to purchase it back from us at. One couple of reasons for that. They've had to extend their purchase agreement a couple of times, and then their recent estimates for demolition costs are higher than they were initially planning for. So it's a temporary solution, but the way that this would work is that we would hold the property, and at the end of the period at which we needed it, our investment would be the $10,000, whatever interest we paid on it, and whatever costs we had paid for the installation of the parking lot. We're anticipating that Public Services would do the install.
How many spots will that provide?
Anywhere between 40 and 44, depending on how we lay the parking lot out.
Devin, where will you move your office to?
That's currently being discussed.
And that's also why Devin couldn't represent us or in this negotiation.
Sure.
We had to use special counsel.
Can you give us a time frame on the whole project?
Yeah, overall, the closing would occur right about the end of the fiscal year, and then the building would have to be cleared and down in September, and then we'd look at doing the parking. If everything works out and it's not a horrible fall for Ryan's crew, we'd like to be able to get it installed this fall.
So the construction would be on us then to do the parking lot.
Yeah, we're anticipating that it would be an asphalt parking lot for the interim. Ideally, we'd want it to be, if it was a permanent structure, we'd want it to be more like what we have between us and the library or here at City Hall, where it's all concrete. But with its intent to be a temporary investment, it wouldn't behoove us to spend that much money on it.
Okay. So I probably jumped the gun a little bit having the discussion on it, but this was a motion to remove from table. All those in favor of removing Resolution 25903 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Your Honor, I have resolution number 25903, approving the Uptown Parking Purchase Agreement and Repurchase Agreement that was tabled on 3/23 and 4/6, the City Council meetings.
Second?
Moved and seconded. Discussion, other discussion on this? Skip.
I was just wondering if there were going to be relocation costs for the law office, or?
No, that's why it was structured in the way that it is. They will buy it, they will take care of any tenant relocation or anything like that, and provide us with a bare site. So by the time it's done, the only thing we have to do is some grading and then install the parking lot.
Okay. Anything else in that building anymore? Just you, okay.
I think it's just the legal services now.
Any other discussions then? Resolution 25903, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Ms. Edsel.
Your Honor, I move to approve ordinance number 17-8 relating to the establishment of the Marion Municipal Airport Committee. Second consideration.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Discussion on this. I believe there were 7 members that was talked about.
The ordinance recommends 7.
Any other discussions then? Okay, ordinance 1708. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Mr. Brandt.
Your Honor, I make a motion to approve ordinance number 1710 to increase council stipends. Initial consideration.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Discussion.
Yes, Your Honor, I think there is an error on this because it says that it will be effective July 1st of 2018. I believe, and that's in 2 different places, not only for the mayor but for the council. I believe that the increase should take place January 1st, 2018, which is the meeting of the first of the year following the election, which has to take place before this can go into effect.
Yeah, I believe that's right.
So I would move to amend this and changing the dates, not only for the mayor but for the council.
You changing the date on it?
I'm sorry?
Councilman, you changing the date? Is that what you
From
meant?
July 1st, 2018 to January 1st, 2018.
Second that.
Were you going to say something, Devin?
No, that may have been a just drafting error on my end. I apologize. I used the date that the prior increase was passed, so that just may have been an oversight on my part. I apologize.
Okay.
Explain that again, sorry. What was it changing?
Oh.
In essence, it's the
January,
effective
okay.
date of when the raise would take place,
Yeah,
when the
yeah,
increase
okay.
would be implemented.
I gotta look out for you.
I wasn't looking at it either.
So do we need to do two? Do we need to go a change and then vote, or can we do it all with just the one change?
Do it all at once.
You do.
Just do all at once, I would think.
Okay, so I move to approve ordinance 17-10 as amended.
We haven't amended it, though. That's what you're gonna have to
Yes,
approve.
okay, that's what I was asking.
Sorry,
Okay,
Joe.
all those in favor of amending ordinance 17-10 to change the wording from July 1st, 2018 to January 1st, 2018. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Now, ordinance 17-10, all those in favor of that ordinance as amended signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And opposed? Motion carries. Okay, someone would like to do the mayoral appointment?
Your Honor, I move to, the term just flew, to approve your appointment of Ellen Barnett to the Civil Rights Commission.
Second.
Concur. That's
Any discussion on Ellen? Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed? Nay. So which side do I start with?
I'll
It's
start.
council discussion time.
I'll
look to my left.
Thank you. City Engineer Whitlow, what about the retention basin on Industrial Avenue?
The paperwork's on your desk, has been since Wednesday morning.
I don't have anything.
Unless each one of you should have got one. They were on your desk.
There wasn't anything concerning. Sorry, so what did it say?
There is a basin there. It's at the southeast corner of the property.
Southeast corner.
Per the stormwater management
Okay.
requirements.
Thank you. Southeast corner. Okay, secondly, there is a rumor going around that there's been contamination found on the mall property. And I just wondered what was going on and is there any facts to this contamination?
What mall property?
The proposed library property.
The phase one that Ryan Companies had done did indicate that there was a possible presence of an underground storage tank on the site. The phase one, however, is simply things like an examination of title history, uses over time, abstracts to see if there were any uses over the history of a property that would indicate a need for further study. So they have now commenced with a phase two. The phase two is where you go in, do soil borings, do further investigation to determine if there is the actual presence of something like that. There's been no indication that the tank or whatever might have been there was like a fuel tank from a gas station or anything like that. I think they suspect that if there was one, it might be more like what we found down by the Whetstone building where it was an old fuel oil tank for a furnace or something like that. But they're in the process now of doing the phase two to see if there is anything on the site.
Well, I would predict that it's diesel and it had to do with the railroad. That's what I would predict. Not that I know. And the third thing, the mayor and I will be at the library on Saturday, so if you want to come visit us, we will be joyous. I am finished.
I don't have anything tonight.
Nothing? Will?
I don't think I do either. No.
Well,
turn it to our history lesson.
We're ready for our lesson.
Had an opportunity this week to go to the meeting at for the state of the county, which was interesting. Three of us went and some city staff, and I've now learned after the Cedar Rapids state of the city and the state of the county, what a great job our mayor did in the state of the city when we did Marion. We had a lot of positive things to talk about, and the county didn't, in my opinion. So with that in mind, I began to wonder, how in the world is this happening? And well, I got reading a little bit, as I often do, and I discovered in 1839, when Lynn County was accepted in, Marion was named the county seat. And we built the county courthouse on the current library site. And the current library site had 3 other buildings, including the PD, before we moved it out to the next to last location. And the county, our folks enjoyed the county being here. In 1855, there was a Skinner guy who ran against the mayor, Judge Barry, and the Skinner guy, his whole thing was that he was going to move the courthouse to Cedar Rapids, and he was defeated 1233 to 933. So we didn't hear from 1855 much about it till 1871. Cedar Rapids in 1871 and 2 urged the citizens of Cedar Rapids to get behind a petition. And they raised $25,000 to help do that petition, and it went forth with many names on it. But Marion had challenged that petition, and they found that a lot of the names were false. A lot of the names were people from cemeteries, and they disallowed it. The next thing that happened was 1878, and they brought forth another petition, but they did not receive enough votes on it to justice a change. In 1908, Cedar Rapids again was on the offensive, and during that year they had the Iowa legislature passed an ordinance that county seats could not be moved in Iowa other than Lynn County, Iowa. Cedar Rapids won out on that. So in 1908, it had been a county seat here for 78 years, and we didn't lose it until November 4th of 1919. It was determined the county seat by a vote of 9,900 to 4,800 would be moved to Cedar Rapids. And we kid about it, but I would say that's why it's not a mistake that our cannon in the park faces to the west.
Do you keep it loaded?
Loaded.
Actually,
That's
that's
another-
not far from wrong, because there were gunfights over that, and people were warned not to go into Marion because people were armed and ready. And
I guess I wanted to recap again the thanks to Officer Gilson and our K-9 Bruno for their service to Marion. We don't know what all they do, but we know that we're safe because they do what they do. And so I want to just thank them and our gratitude for doing things that we don't know, but we're glad we don't know. Yeah, thank you. And with that, any other comments? We are adjourned.